What's up, guys? It's Red Devil Ace, and as many people know, the new MonsterVerse movie, Godzilla X Kong: A New Empire, just released a couple of days ago, and luckily I was able to catch it as soon as it arrived in theaters. So, welcome to another Ace's Point of View, where today we are going over what was bad, what was good, and what was downright ugly with the new MonsterVerse movie. Now, keeping in theme of the film, do we see a lot of Godzilla and Kong action? Will we see new kaiju that will actually give Godzilla and Kong a challenge? Will we finally see who is the king of the monsters? Um, gonna hold off on that. Basically, the basic synopsis is that Godzilla and Kong will battle once again, but this time instead of against each other, it'll be against a giant orangutan called the Scar King. Now, due to all the backlash from Godzilla versus Kong and a whole lot of people comparing, like, oh, it's gonna be the same thing, oh, it might be worse, and all this yada 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 bullshit, I actually had high hopes because of course the CGI is gonna look great. At least they're not teasing another versus match like the Godzilla versus Kong. So, I mean, my hopes was pretty low in the beginning, and there was a lot of speculation on what's going to be new about this series. Like, will this be another a Son of Kong storyline because of the tiny orangutan that showed up in the trailer? Uh, will we see Godzilla evolve somehow? How did Godzilla get his pink glow? Um, um will Kong age once again like he was between Kong Skull Island, Godzilla versus Kong? Will we see another evolution of Kong? What is the new kaiju all about? Will this be a 2-on-1? Thankfully, the movie answered all those questions and more. So, let's go over what happened. And also, if you haven't seen Godzilla X Kong: A New Empire, please click over from this video because I will be spoiling the shit out of this movie. The movie starts off again, kind of like in the same vibe as Godzilla, kind of like somewhere and yada yada yada. In the Godzilla vs. Kong, it was somewhere on Skull Island, but now it's somewhere on Hollow Earth. So obviously, this takes place years after the events of Godzilla vs. Kong. And once again, Kong is basically the main focus of the movie, and Godzilla takes a back seat as a side character once again. Now, I didn't let that detract my overall excitement for the movie, even though I am a bigger Godzilla fan more than I am a Kong fan. But I did like Kong. I like how they fleshed out the character in Skull Island and Godzilla vs. Kong. So I still had my hopes up and had a bit of excitement in my head. And when I tell you they aged Kong, you can tell not just from the way he looks, just how he survives out in Skull Island. Because back then, he used to rely on his brute strength, his overall durability. But now he has to set up traps. He needs actual human help in order to get around. That's why you see him wear the giant yellow gauntlet in the trailer. They are really, I guess, like, making Kong older. And he's not as strong as he used to be, so now he just relies on his axe the whole time. But aside from that, it's because the whole tooth plot line they had in the movie, I thought that was like a throwaway plot line just to add more time to the movie, because I feel like they kind of ran out of ideas on what to do this time around. But I digress. At least we get to see Kong tear new monsters in half, so that was actually pretty satisfying. But why do all monsters bleed green on Hollow Earth? That's what I want to find out. So, after Kong demolished the shit out of some direwolves, and if you watch the movie, tell me that they are not direwolves. Seriously. After that, the humans, or more specifically, the same characters that were in Godzilla vs. Kong. I think her name was Dr. Andrews, and the Iwi. Oh fuck, I forgot her name. Whatever. I'll try to remember her name. Um, um, Of course, they got older. Dr. Angel's got a whole lot of good press because of the events of Godzilla vs. Kong. She's the head of the Kong research, and Godzilla is just doing whatever Godzilla does. He's just swarming around. Whenever a new kaiju pops up, he demolishes the shit out of it. And we finally got to see more of the giant Cthulhu spider crab, but Godzilla takes care of it in really short notice. But overall, things pretty seem pretty standard in the beginning until one of the bigger plot lines in the movie ramps up, and and this is another plot line that I really didn't get behind of too much. That apparently the Iwi girl that's living with Dr. Andrews is getting like visions and nightmares, like predicting the future and things like that. And somehow she goes into a psychotic state in the middle of her class, just drawing three triangles all over her desk and all over her notebook, and they are the same readings that a Monarch base is getting. That seemed kind of like, that kind of irked me in the wrong way, because I didn't think that the Iwis were so intertwined with Titans. I thought they were just people living on Skull Island. Like, I didn't think that they would be so interconnected with these. I thought all they had was Kong and the Skull Crawlers. But and I'll get back to that later on. So the movie continues on. Uh, Kong is seeing uncharted areas in Hollow Earth, because apparently the humans only ever charted 1% of Hollow Earth. Like, they have facilities on Hollow Earth. Why don't they have expeditions to see more of the area? But I digress. And of course, Kong, being the curious Titan that he is, goes and sees what's new in this new world that's different from Skull Island. And then he runs into this tiny, cute orangutan that I don't think they gave a name yet, but it just shows that there are other gorilla-like titans in Hollow Earth, because all we thought is that Kong was the last of his kind because the skull crawlers wiped out his whole family, but that's not the case this time around. And Godzilla gets jumped by 2 to 3 more gorillas, all covered in red paint and things like that. And got Kong thought, I gotta protect this child from this ambush, but the child ends up trying to claw his eyes out, and like a good father, he gives him a treatment that has been memed over 1,000,000 times. And after that, now Godzilla is incredibly curious on what's going on in this Hollow Earth, which causes the humans to also venture into Hollow Earth to figure out what's going on. Why is Dr. Angel's daughter having these visions? What's up with the 3 triangles? And of course, everyone's favorite comic relief, Bernie, comes along. And this movie introduces us to a new character aside from Scar King, called Trapper. Now, Trapper is like an Ace Ventura-like character with blonde hair, but I trust him more as a tracker than I did trust Conrad back in Kong Skull Island, because he at least deals with giant titans like Kong. I'm pretty sure he knows his way around the jungle, and the dude is a thrill seeker, so of course he'd have like special affinities for crazy things like this. So a whole bunch of minor characters get axed off, and then Godzilla also senses that the Scar King is coming, and so he goes to try to make himself stronger. And to do that, a lot of people thought that Godzilla got his pink glow because he was hibernating in Hollow Earth. Because as we see from the trailers, he's surrounded by a whole bunch of quartz and a place that's not really recognizable on Earth. So maybe he went to Hollow Earth to gather some more radiation, just like he did in Godzilla King of the Monsters. But that was really not the case. So aside from the Cthulhu spider, the movie gives us a pretty good introduction on another kaiju named Tiamat, which is like an underwater Gyarados that glows pink. And apparently, Tiamat is one of the strongest kaijus around because a whole bunch of solar flares got blasted onto him directly. So maybe he'll take Godzilla on, and he'll actually be a challenge for the Big G aside from King Ghidorah. I had such high hopes for this kaiju. I really did. He freaking swept the floor with Tiamat. Like, Tiamat thought, like, oh, maybe I'll strangle him and then he won't be able to breathe underwater, but everyone knows Godzilla has gills. And the last thing we see is an above water shot of Godzilla blasting his atomic breath, and all we see is Tiamat cut into sushi. And that's how Godzilla got his pink glow. No special hibernations, no Hollow Earth radiation. He just did a drive-by on a fellow kaiju. And that is the birth of Barbenheimer Zilla, or another, anyone else can think of a good name that's Barbenheimer crossed with Godzilla. But anyways, and when I first had speculations about this movie, I like, okay, this is practically not fair. I mean, Scar King is just a skinnier, lankier Kong, and Godzilla has his new power. Kong has his axe and the yellow gauntlet. There's no way that Scar King will be able to take these two on in a fight. And I was right, but it also introduces to a bigger, stronger, more fascinating, and lore-heavy kaiju that is on the Scar King side. So, as Kong ventures the Hollow Earth, he goes to where the Scar King is, and we see that he has an entire tribe into this volcanic area. And I was thinking to myself, why are all these titans in this one volcanic area on Hollow Earth? And why was Kong the only gorilla-like titan that was on Earth Prime? Like, why are all of these down here? And thankfully, the movie gives us more of a history lesson to why these titans are the way they are. So apparently, Godzilla and Scar King ended up fighting millions of years ago, and Scar King was such a diabolical threat, Godzilla had to imprison him into Hollow Earth. He didn't finish him off. He didn't kill him. Godzilla was so fed up that he had to imprison him into this bad area of the Hollow Earth because he was too strong, apparently. And we see what's the whole belt around Scar King, and I guess Scar King must main Ivy Valentine and Soul Calibur because he whipped his shit around and makes quick work of Kong. And the reason why he is so strong wasn't because Scar King was such a badass against Godzilla that he was able to actually kill the Big G. No. Scar King, like every villain that you hate in media history, he has a pet kaiju named Shimo. And let me tell you, this looks like a kaiju from Toho made by American dudes. And Shimo is this giant dinosaur-like white kaiju that glows blue that can shoot ice. And Kong being like the most human kaiju, the most human titan there is, ends up getting plastered by Shimo, which results in him getting the yellow gauntlet in order to actually compete against Scar King and Shimo. And everyone thought like, Kong is such an old man, he needs human help. Yes, he is getting older, but at least they didn't, take pity on Kong. Because, as we learned from Dr. Andrews and Trapper, they were working on this new prototype augmentation for a long time now, but they just never hit the button. So Kong returns to Earth Prime in order to lure Godzilla out, and it's so funny that Godzilla is as territorial as he was in Godzilla X Kong, because the first thing he does when he sees Kong is just he tackles the absolute shit out of him. And Kong is actually doing his damnedest to try to motion to Kong that he's not here to fight. We need to get to Hollow Earth, but Kong just wants to kick the shit out of Kong. And at least they actually get around to Godzilla and Kong both heading to Hollow Earth. They have this giant fight, and it's Kong versus Scar King and Shimo versus Godzilla, and it was a really entertaining fight. I mean, there's like big moments where everything's in zero gravity, so Godzilla and Shimo have to use their atomic and freezing breaths in order to fight one another. Meanwhile, Kong and Scar King were like throwing rocks, and Scar King was using his whip on Kong a lot. And of course, the baby Kong, or Kong Jr., actually joins in on the fight a bit later. But he mostly just fights goons and gets absolutely thrown around by Scar King. And up until the end, Scar King finally manages to reach Earth Prime. And just the new effects of Godzilla's heat ray, I was like, okay, this is pretty much worth it, turning Godzilla into a Barbenheimer meme. So yeah, that was pretty fun. And then Scar King loses control of Shimo, because at the end of his whip, he has this crystal that's like kryptonite to Shimo that he just points it at whatever, or goes like this towards him, and it hurts him. So basically, Shimo, being the badass kaiju that he is, was basically a pet to Scar King all along. And once he loses control of that, Shimo regains his humanity, or his consciousness back, freezes Scar King, and then Kong smashes him harder than Hulk smashed Abomination. So that's basically, the whole plot line of the movie. Kong goes back to Hollow Earth and essentially becomes the new Scar King, because at least he actually has a scar across his chest. And Godzilla is back to defacing wonders of the world. And the whole Iwi plotline, at least we have more lore than what the Iwis gave us in Skull Island. Because the reason that the Iwis are still alive, they somehow ventured to Hollow Earth after the whole storm that wiped them all out. Or I think, if I remember correctly, the Iwis from Skull Island were the Iwis already existed on Hollow Earth, and I think the Iwis that we meet on Skull Island were detached from the main group. I really don't remember. And another kaiju shows up, and it's Mothra. Now, I was thinking to myself, how the fuck does this happen? And apparently, Mothra is not only the queen of the monsters, she is the goddess of the Iwi people. And the whole thing was like, an Iwi from Skull Island can bring Mothra back. And I'm like, why does Iwis being in Skull Island needs to be a thing? Why can't it just be any other Iwi? But because of plot and characters, it had to be the Iwi, the Iwi girl that was from Godzilla vs. Kong, because, of course. And Mothra actually comes back and actually reasons with Godzilla and Kong while they're in Egypt. Now, even though Godzilla, Kong, and Mothra don't speak English, you can pretty much understand what they're saying. And thank God Mothra doesn't die this time. Um, I really want to talk about Shima because they did Shima worse than Godzilla because Godzilla had a few entertaining fights, got this new power, but I feel like Shima's got the most interesting lore because apparently Shima was the issue to Godzilla's hide back millions of years ago, and that's why and I'm guessing that's why he'd prisoned the Scar King so he wouldn't use Shima on the surface world anymore. And apparently Shima was the one that caused the Ice Age. So to me, that was actually pretty insane. And I've seen all these pictures of Godzilla with wings, and maybe because Mothra is finally back, we might get like a Son of Godzilla storyline. Look, I'm all for an evolution of the character and now that we have a Son of Kong like storyline going on right now, it would be kind of fun to have like a baby Godzilla, but since we're since we're at a day and age where a giant gray wolf and a white dwarf rabbit get it on and everyone seems pretty okay with that, a lizard and a moth would not be a good idea. Like I'm just saying that outright. We can have another dormant Godzilla or something like that. I just really don't want any fan art of Godzilla and Mothra getting it on. Okay? But anyways, was this movie good? Yes. Did it improve on where Godzilla and X Kong lacked? Yes. Is it better than Godzilla X Kong? Yes. By a fuck ton. Is there a possible sequel down the line? Possibly yes. But what will the sequel be about? Like, I don't want to see the same thing like, oh god, like where Godzilla and Kong meet up once again to fight another threat, but then the whole cycle rekindles. Maybe we'll get a Mecha King Ghidorah somewhere down the line because at least his skull is still there, or I don't know, man. Or maybe we'll get him Gigan from Toho into the MonsterVerse because I'm really excited what they're gonna do with him. Or a proper alien-like Mecha Godzilla shows up and Godzilla needs to fight him. Or man, I don't think, and also like I don't think Kong has that many adversaries in the MonsterVerse. He just has like the occasional creepy Titan or two back on Hollow Earth. But I really hope that wherever Legendary takes this MonsterVerse, hopefully takes it in a good direction. And the entire movie, I was hoping for like maybe there's like a reference to the Monarch Legacy, the Monster Show. But and if you're curious about those two, that show crossing over, don't get your hopes up because I did not see shit about Monarch Legacy, the monsters there. Like I didn't see Kentaro's kids anywhere. Like Kurt Russell's not even in the movie. They just shelled that series. But another part of me was kind of irked that why does Godzilla take so much of a back seat in these movies? Because not gonna lie, I feel like Godzilla is like the main pull of the MonsterVerse, and people want to see more of him now that Godzilla is getting stronger and stronger, and Kong is getting older and older and has to constantly rely for help. And I thought, oh, they're trying to put more focus on Kong instead of Godzilla because they want Kong to be the bigger pull. That's actually not the case. So when I try to look more into it, apparently it was because of Toho themselves. Not that Toho did anything so that Godzilla shows up less. It was because of releases. Because Godzilla was getting all of this hype and attention because of the fantastic film that was Godzilla Minus One, they wanted to do away from Godzilla so they can put more effort into Kong, because we already know that Godzilla was going to get all of this good press because of Godzilla Minus One and because of the new transformation he has in Godzilla X Kong: A New Empire. So at least that actually kind of closed the book on all the rumors like, oh, like Legendary hates Godzilla and stuff like that. It wasn't really that. It was just because of marketing and just close releases. But now that we have both Godzilla Minus One and Godzilla X Kong: New Empire finally in our hands, the better movie is still Godzilla Minus One. Like, and I'm not saying that just to be biased, but it's so much of a good film that I think I gave it a 11 out of 10 because again the storyline was absolutely excellent. The way they built up the characters was absolutely incredible. The special effects were daunting, and Godzilla was actually fucking terrifying. But in Godzilla X Kong, like the CGI was absolute. Godzilla X Kong: A New Empire, the CGI was absolutely incredible. The fights were fantastic. The comedy was actually there. Like, there were so many moments where I actually laughed my ass off, where I actually went wide-eyed, and I was actually surprised a few times. And it takes a lot for a movie to surprise me, especially a live-action one, and especially one from America. But this one managed to do it. So at the end of everything, the rating I want to give Godzilla X Kong: A New Empire is an 8 out of 10. Like, this movie was not that bad. This movie definitely improved on what Godzilla X vs. Kong lacked off. And I'm actually excited for what Legendary brings in the future. And, oh man, I really hope they bring more Toho characters, because I feel like now that we've seen Kong get older and it's not the same kaiju that Titan that he was, I feel like we might see more Toho characters into Legendary's MonsterVerse, and I honestly cannot wait for what the future holds. So, thank you guys so much for watching my review on Godzilla X Kong: A New Empire, and if you liked it, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave your thoughts on the movie in the comments down below. Let me know what other movie you want me to review or to watch. I am in the process of watching all of Toho's work, because I remember there was this one comment that that said, like, oh, I was dissing Heisei era Godzilla, and I don't think I was. I remember I was just making a proper point, because like I'm comparing like Godzilla designs, and yeah, I don't really want to go down that rabbit hole again. So until next time, thank you for watching this Ace's point of view. And like I always say, keep the blood boiling and the heart pumping. My name is Red Devil Ace, and I'll see you all next time.